What's going on, guys? Wanted to make a quick video recapping the system trade that we took this past week. So I'm sure some of you saw this was the first 10 bagger, first trade that went 1,000% using the system. So we grabbed the 420 puts last Wednesday, rode them all the way up until this past Monday, and that trade just went crazy. So I want to recap it, show you guys what I was seeing, but more importantly, I want to highlight some of the mistakes I think I made. And I want to talk about some of the adjustments that I'm going to be making moving forward in order to better execute using the system. So the idea was pretty simple. Last Wednesday, we got our sell signal, which is just the 10 SMA crossing below the 50 SMA. And as you guys can see, that sell signal was never invalidated by a buy signal. So a buy signal, of course, would be the 10 SMA crossing above the 50 SMA. So for as long as that 10 SMA is trading below the 50 SMA, we are in sell territory, if you want to think of it like that. And so grabbing the 420 puts, we were about $8 out of the money. My first mistake was adding the position prior to FOMC. So it's worked in the past, but realistically, it was too much of an aggressive approach because as you guys can see on this candle here, we got a really strong rally after that FOMC meeting, which eventually sold off and closed below the 50 SMA, which is why I even held on to the position. So had we continued higher and had the 10 SMA came back above the 50 SMA, I likely would have closed. The next day, you can see we kind of traded sideways and it was range bound. And we closed right at the 50 SMA, but traded below it. And you can see how it was still serving as resistance. So the trade and the sell signal was still valid. But when we're trading options, especially options that are expiring within the week or within 2 weeks, you're going to start to deal with theta. You're going to start to deal with time decay, which can make things pretty tough. And so my thought process here was, okay, I know that the sell signal is still valid. I want to hold on to the trade. And over the course of this period, I actually averaged down into the position. So my average started at about $1.29, and I got my average down to 77 cents because, again, the sell signal was still valid. I still love the trade, and I wanted to average down. I wanted to give myself a good shot at making this a winning trade if it did eventually go my way. And as expected, we got this huge sell-off. And then the 10 SMA served as resistance, right? And so the trade ended up going 1,000%. Now I'll talk about how I scaled out. So as I started to see some profits, I just slowly started taking off good portions of my position. I had 50 contracts. However, into that last day of the trade, I only had 3 left. And on that last day of the trade, I made $1,000. So with those 3 contracts that I had overnight that ended up opening up like 600%, and then the 1 contract that went 1,000%, I was able to make an extra $1,000. So think about that. The beauty of options and the power of options is that you don't always have to have these massively sized positions, and only a few contracts can result in large gains. So I want to now talk about what I could have done differently. I obviously talked about adding before FOMC. That was a bad idea. In hindsight, I wouldn't do that moving forward. The next thing I want to talk about is buying more time on the options contracts themselves. So to me, it makes more sense now looking back at this trade to add options with at least 2 to 4 weeks until expiration. The reason for that is because I want to eliminate some of that theta that I'm having to deal with. Because think about it this way. This trade worked out perfectly, and this trade went 10x, and we can celebrate the win, and it was phenomenal. But by the time the trade ended and I was looking back at how I executed, I kind of asked myself, what if we had one more day of sideways action? I would have been down, 60, maybe even 70% on the trade, and I would have been forced to exit for fear of losing even more money. So buying yourself more time can allow you to remain in the trade for as long as that sell signal or that buy signal is valid, okay? Another thing that I'm taking a look at is trading futures. So let's see how this played out. So obviously we got the sell signal, and then today we ended up getting a buy signal, which is the cross of the 10 above the 50th SMA. Now today I longed from 4170 SPX, and my trade vehicle, how I longed, was the mini futures, so MES, okay? And what this does is it eliminates theta. And so I can wait however long for this move to happen. And I don't have to worry about picking the right expiration date. And I don't have to worry about, okay, if we trade flat, my contracts, the premiums themselves are just going to get destroyed. So I can be more patient and I can just play the chart. So that's something I'm going to start doing a lot more often. And to experiment today, I only grabbed 5 of the minis because, I'm not extremely familiar with trading futures and I just want to get used to them. But even with those 5 at the close here, from my 4170 long, I made $700. So that's an awesome trade. And for however long this buy signal stays valid, okay, I can hold on to some of my position. Because take a look, let's say you went short the mini futures here at the sell signal, which was 42.74, and you exited at 41.56 on the buy signal. You could trade sell signal to buy signal, and that would have been a huge win, right? And obviously you can scale out along the way. So that's something that I've learned. So in talking about how I managed the position and in talking about what I was looking at, I hope you guys can kind of see that there are different ways to play the system and take either an aggressive approach or a conservative approach. Trading the mini futures, I would say, is more of a conservative approach, but I think that it can be one of the best ways to trade the system. And in the future, once I start to do this more and more often, I'll make a whole separate video regarding that, okay? Now, the more aggressive approach is trading options, more specifically options expiring within a week or two, okay? And that's obviously an awesome way to trade the system. And we've seen massive, massive gains, right? We've seen plenty of trades go 100%, 200%. This trade went 1,000%. So I just want to use this as a reminder that if you decide to trade the options, you don't need to go really big size. You don't need to go huge because the moves using the system can be huge. And only a couple contracts can result in you still making a good amount of money, okay? So I hope that this video helped clarify why I took the trade. It's very, very simple. And this is the most beautiful part about trading using the system, guys. There's no tricks, right? There's nothing fancy. It's 2 moving averages giving you either a buy signal or a sell signal, telling you, okay, it's either time to get short or it's time to get long, okay? So I hope that this video helped clear things up for you guys. I'm excited to make more of these in the future, recapping other trades that we take using the system. I'm hoping that this buy signal gets some really strong continuation, and maybe I'll make another video about that trade. But I hope that you guys have had an awesome week trading so far. I hope that you guys are enjoying the system. I see a ton of you tagging me on Twitter. The YouTube comments on the last video I made, that system introductory video, were awesome. So seeing everybody use it and seeing everybody being profitable, that means the world to me. And I love that. And whenever you guys are trading using the system, reach out to me if you have questions, right? My DMs are open. But awesome stuff, guys. Keep it up and let's keep trading well. Have a great upcoming week, everybody.